Great. So Fiona is currently at the Teen Challenge Leadership Academy, and you've been on a pretty incredible adventure over the last couple of years. Do you want to just tell us, Fiona, what it was like growing up?
So my childhood was quite traumatic. There was a lot of violence in the family home between my mum and my dad. They separated when I was about 9, and my mum quickly got into another relationship, and we were introduced to his family, and we were introduced to a man who we called Uncle Geordie, and it was then that he started to sexually abuse me when I was about 10. So...
Okay, and obviously that must have been a traumatic time for you. And was it around that time or soon after, you started to experiment with drugs? Do you want to just tell us about that journey?
So I was already smoking at that age, and then it slowly progressed on to I started to smoke cannabis when I was 12. Then it led into amphetamines and ecstasy when I was about 14. And then by the age of 16, I was with a boy who was a bit older than me, and he sold heroin. So I started to smoke heroin then. And then that progressed on, and I started to smoke crack when I was about 21.
And sort of where did that sort of life of addiction and rejection take you from there? So you're at age 21 and you're addicted to practically everything by now. So what was the next steps for you with that?
So obviously, as a result of my addiction, I was committing crimes to fund my addiction. And so early on in my criminal history, if you like, I was shoplifting, and obviously that led me into prison. And then it was in there that I heard, in the chapel, I heard testimonies of people who had done Teen Challenge, and I met people whose lives God had transformed, and that was where I met Barry. And it was hearing his story was one of a few that, and I thought, well, if God could do it for him, then he could do it for me.
Fantastic. Yeah. So you're in prison, perhaps not thinking that there is any hope or freedom out of this life of addiction, and then you're in these powerful testimonies and you start believing that actually things can be different, that you can change, that there was hope. So you're at that place, you've just heard Barry's stories, know there was other people's testimonies. So what happened from that moment in your sort of journey?
So I got out from prison after that sentence, and obviously I made a commitment to follow Jesus, but I think because I was doing it all in my own strength, I just fell back into the lifestyle of addiction. I wasn't really connected with the church, and then I became involved in a circle where one of the girls that I was hanging around with, she became involved in prostitution, and I got involved in prostitution myself, and it was then that I had a traumatic experience where I could have and should have ended up dead, but I thank God that he had his hand of protection on me. And from there, I ended up back in prison on a 2-week recall where I was told about the Women's Lighthouse, which is a Christian hostel that's for vulnerable women. And I went there in October 2016, and from there I gave my life to Jesus 3 days later, and then I was baptised about a month after.
So you've given your life to Jesus about 2 years ago, you've been baptised, and it has been an adventure, hasn't it? The last 2 years, God's done some incredible things in you and through you. Do you just tell people what's been going on the last couple of years to what you're doing now at the Academy?
So I went into, so I stayed at the Lighthouse for 6 months. I did my detox while I was there out in the community, and I went into Hope House after I'd been clean for 3 days. And from there, obviously, I've been on a journey with the Lord. The Lord's done a deep work in my heart. He's healed me on so many different levels, and he set me free from my addiction, my guilt, my shame, loss, rejection, and he's still working on a lot of things like my self-worth and stuff. Sometimes I struggle with it, but you know, we're all on a journey, and I'm just trusting God through it all. But my program, I really enjoyed the program. It was tough at times, and people say to me, did you never feel like you wanted to leave? But I never, because I knew that God had took me there with a purpose, and I wanted to be free. A bit like the man who spoke earlier about, do you want to get well? I wanted to get well. And then I finished my programme in January. I stayed on and did my phase 4 there, so that was 6 months. And from there, I went to Liverpool to be part of Liverpool's outreach team there. And I was there for 2 months and then graduated on the 1st of September from the programme and started the Leadership Academy, which is where I am now. And I'm just deepening my relationship with the Lord, learning more about the heart of God and going out and getting involved in the outreach. So it's been amazing.
It's amazing. Come on, that's awesome. Thank you, Fiona. And God's given you a gift of communication as well, and she's done amazing. I know she was a bit nervous before coming tonight. You've done so well. Just lastly, I know when you were in that prison, not thinking there was any hope, and then you heard that there was. Do you want to just say something to somebody who may be sitting here today that may be feeling that sense of, not having hope? What would you say to them?
I think what I would say is that the same thing I thought when I looked at Barry and Claire Walker. I thought, well, I saw something different about them, and I thought, well, if God could do it for them, then he can do it for me. So I think if God's trying to say anything today, it's the fact that if God can do it in me and God can do it in Barry and everybody else who's sat here, then he can do it for you as well. We just have to believe and trust in him.
That's right. Come on, Fiona, that's brilliant. Thanks so much. Thank you very much. Wow. Powerful.